One of the biggest concerns with the Great Salt Lake continuing to shrink is the exposed lake bed, specifically what's in it, and the health concerns when the wind blows that dust into the air we all breathe.
Yeah, there are very similar concerns here in Southern California with the Salton Sea. But unlike Utah, residents there have been dealing with a shrinking lake for decades now. News specialist Alex Cabrera visited the Salton Sea to find out what's being done to try and fix this problem that seems to be only getting worse.
As the Great Salt Lake continues to recede, is this something we could see on the exposed lake bed? Thousands of hay bales is one of the solutions the state of California is doing on the exposed lake bed around the Salton Sea. But for people who live nearby, they say it's not enough. There's a certain feeling you're almost sure to get the first time you visit Bombay Beach.
Most people who come in here and think that and come here to take pictures think we're a ghost town.
That post-apocalyptic feel.
I'd like to see it back in like it was back in the day.
Is what Teresa Lamer hears about all the time.
They don't think people live here, actually.
But for her, it's home.
I love this place. I mean, you can count the stars come up one at a time.
It sure is peaceful here, but there's a reason why only 200 people call Bombay Beach home.
You can't keep the dirt out of your house. The dust is so bad that you can dust today and tomorrow it's right back.
You see, that dust is coming from the beach just outside Bombay Beach. And as the Salton Sea continues to shrink, as it's been doing for decades now, there's a lot more dust from exposed lake bed being blown around.
Yeah, I can't breathe in it. You can see the dirt. The air is brown. It's nasty.
But it's not so much the dust being blown around this part of Southern California.
My husband died here.
It's what's in that dust.
He had COPD, and it got really, really bad.
Same for Lamer's husband.
Died in 2016. Never needed an inhaler before, and he'd had a couple, and then they put him on this new one, and a week later he died.
It's not just Bombay Beach. It seems a lot of people who live in communities around the Salton Sea have been getting sick.
No person should go to bed at night or head to work in the morning, whether or not the air they breathe is going to make them sick.
It's something Patrick O'Dowd, who is the executive director of the Salton Sea Authority,
Our people's health
would sure like to know.
being adversely affected by those changes. And I can't find a person who will answer that question clearly and succinctly, not just for me, but for everybody who lives around here.
To get those answers, there are a lot of studies and research being done.
And it simulates different wind speeds across the playa.
One project being done involves running machines like this one along the exposed lake bed. The dust kicked up by them is then studied.
Basically tests and simulates different wind speeds across a variable of different surfaces.
There are also efforts to suppress the dust, like this watering project to help native vegetation grow in some areas.
You know, you got to take it slow and make sure that you're doing everything the right way.
So the surface of the water gets really, really hot.
And this hay bale project happening in several different areas around the Salton Sea.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a striking thing to look at.
The idea is to block the wind at the ground level.
The hope is that it's the beginnings of something that is more permanent than hay bales.
But also to plant native vegetation next to the hay bales. And as those bales break down, it provides fertilizer to the plants.
I think a lot of the intention is to just really get the vegetation established.
But it's a big lake, about 35 miles long and 15 miles wide. And those who study the area...
That's not a solution, right?
...aren't so sure about the hay bales.
It's a Band-Aid.
I don't know what they can do because the Salton Sea is shrinking.
How much longer can people who live in surrounding communities wait?
And the more it shrinks, worse it gets. When the wind blows, it's bad, and they know it's bad.
And as the Salton Sea continues getting smaller, the possibility of places like Bombay Beach becoming the ghost town it already looks like only grows.
It's hard because you get to know the regulars, and most of them are gone now.
As the Salton Sea continues to recede, though, is the state of California truly going to cover all the exposed lake bed around the sea with hay bales? Probably not. And is this something Utah is looking at? We haven't heard that from state leaders just yet, but Utah is watching California closely to see which solutions are working and which ones aren't. At the Salton Sea in Southern California, Alex Cabrera, KSL 5 News.